What's up everyone, welcome to Workshop Rebuild. This is my channel where I take apart, clean and reassemble machines to make them fully functional again. In today's video, I'll be working on a new project right in front of me here. And this right here is a Simplicity walk behind mower. This walk-behind tractor has a 1-cylinder, 3-horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine mounted on the front of it. It is a horizontal shaft engine and it is belt-driven to the Simplicity transmission out here in the back. I'm not sure how many speeds this transmission is, but I believe just by shifting it, it is 3 forward. There could be a reverse, but I'm not quite sure. I'll dig into that very soon, so we'll have a look at that. This Simplicity walk-behind mower has been sitting for quite some time, so my goal for this machine is to get the engine running the way it should be, which will be a separate little video. And then after that, I'll be working on the drivetrain, which is the transmission and the axle itself. After that, I'll look at the linkages and make sure everything runs the way it should. The goal for today is to take the Briggs & Stratton engine off. I will take both tires off of the frame, that I can clean everything on the frame and possibly dig into the transmission right there, change the oil and do all that good stuff, because as you guys can see, it's leaking oil pretty much everywhere right here. So I really want to clean up that frame and make sure I can see everything. There might be some seals or O-rings that I have to change up or just replace. And the engine itself will be a separate rebuild, so I'll do that afterwards. So I'm going to be focusing on the frame right now, so let's dig into it. The engine I just took off bolts on super easy. There's only 4 bolts on the bottom, and the Simplicity frame has some slots right there so you can move it back and forth. Very simple to take off. And now I'll look forward to clean the frame up, and I'll put this assembly on a table so I can work up a little bit higher, that I don't have to bend down and hurt my back. So let's put that on a table and start scrubbing it down so we can take off more parts and make sure everything will be tidy before we put it back together. I got some of the surfaces cleaned up and now it's already looking much better. This hub and the hub on the other side are very clean. There is still a lot of cleaning to do on this machine. What I will do right now is pull off the hubs right here on both sides, and then I'll access the transmission right here, and after that I'll be left with the bare frame. It's very hard to get in behind there and clean, so I'm just going to be stripping everything apart and cleaning it that way. Some of the spots are still very dark because some of the spots don't have any paint on it anymore, so it's not all just really dirty. It's like half dirt and half unpainted surface, so that's why it might look very dark at the moment. But I'll dig into the disassembly of the parts and then we'll have a look at how much I have to clean after that. This right here is the right hand side, and it's very dry right here. The hub on the inside looks like this, so it's some kind of clutch mechanism right here. I'm not too familiar with this setup. So this is the shaft right here where the hub sits on, and this is some kind of linkage right here. So when I take it apart, I'm going to have to figure out how this right here works. It's very interesting always to work on older machines to figure it out. Sure, there might be a manual somewhere online, but I'm going to try figuring it out myself. This right here is the left-hand side, and it's very, very oily and greasy. So the linkage right here is also kind of there, but it's much more loose. And I would suspect that there would have been a seal right here, but it's the way it looks like it's just a standard fit. And this right here is the hub that came from the left side. So as you guys can see, it's very, very oily and greasy right here. And the other side, which is the right side, was very dry. So I'm wondering exactly what's behind this here. So we'll take these off and see what's behind there. So far I've gotten the engine and the hubs disassembled and off of this frame, and now I can move on to the transmission, which has this one axle here and the shift lever. So in order to take this off the frame, I'm going to have to take off the linkage from the shifter and the linkage which activates the pulley over here. So once I take that off, I can unbolt the transmission from the frame, which is underneath here, and then I can start cleaning up the transmission on this table right here. So let's dig into it. After a couple of hours of cleaning up the parts right here, I'm left with the transmission, which is very clean on the outside, both hubs over here, the bigger pulley and the smaller pulley, which is the tensioner right here. I'll give you guys a close-up on these parts right here. It still may look dirty because it's not all painted, but I'm going to look forward to take this transmission apart or separate both parts of the housing, that I can clean the inside of it and get all that grease out of there and seal it properly with a sealant in between that it doesn't leak anymore. After I merge both halves of the housing back together, I'll be slapping everything back together and putting this back onto the frame and the wheels, and then in part 2 I'll share with you guys the rebuild on the Briggs Stratton 3 horsepower engine. So stay tuned. After quite a few hours of cleaning parts and taking out all the grime off that transmission, it's finally clean and I can get ready to reassemble the transmission. As you guys can see, this housing is perfectly clean. The gears and the shifter mechanism is also clean, and the other part of the housing is clean as well. I have the drive gear right here, which drives both hubs, and the shifter right here is clean as well. So everything cleaned up very well. I did get a question in my last video of how I clean parts. The smaller parts, if they're somewhat dirty, I put them in an ultrasonic cleaner, And other parts that are just really dirty, I put in a bucket, just a standard plastic bucket, and I throw some old diesel fuel in there and I just scrub it down with a brush. Other parts I do clean with a wire brush, but I don't like to do that on painted surfaces since the paint will get scratched up or scuffed up. So I really just do it the manual way. Yes, it's very time consuming, but it gets all the grime off, and that's really important. So enough talk, let's get the transmission assembled. I finished assembling the transmission and everything went super smooth. After that, I already moved ahead and installed the handles, and this is how it looks like. Next up, I'll be installing the mechanism that drives the hubs, then I can mount the tires and put it back on the ground. As you guys can see, the simplicity walk behind tractor is on both tires. Once again, I gave you guys an in-depth view on how to dismantle this machine and reassemble it. So in this state right here, I can now work on the Briggs Stratton 3 horsepower engine, and I'll be sharing that in a part 2 of this simplicity video series. So if you found this video helpful, please leave a like down below. It helps this channel out massively. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm going to have some amazing builds in the near future. And as always, stay tuned.